All right, welcome everyone. I want to give you an update on how best to use the masculine matrix and the feminine force. So I'm redoing this just because I released the feminine force because so many guys were like, hey, I'd really like if there was like a female version. And a lot of women were like, hey, this is really good. Can you create a female version of it? And that's what I did. Denver Clay went in there. We put some really, really cool layers in there. It gave us some good feminine energy, and we tailored it. We customized it a little bit more towards women. So because it's been a couple weeks since we've started this whole process with how best to utilize it, I found there are some really good ideas that came to mind to help you best get what you want out of it. So I'm going to do a recap right here. As a matter of fact, this is going to be the new video. The old one's going to be obsolete. And I just want to explain how this works. So the first thing you do, and you can do it for both because the process is pretty much the same for both of them. It's just one's tailored to women, one's tailored to men. So the first point that we do when we're in this is you basically write down on a piece of paper what it is that you want to change, right? And this is the addition that I'm adding to it. It could also be a symbol. So for example, let's just say it's timidness. So you write down on a piece of paper, timid, right? And that's what you're going to first start with, this ability to be timid. Now, if you can't get the emotion of what it feels like to be timid, because some people just can't access the emotion, there could be something like a symbol that would come to mind, and that will also help represent that in your neurology. So what would be a timid symbol to me? It would be maybe a little scared dog, all right, sitting in the corner. Okay, your unconscious mind knows what that means, all right? So you could do that. You could also do mentors as well. So let's just say you have an idea of someone who would be timid. It could be a movie star. It could be anyone that comes to mind that would do that. So you actually have three ways of processing the first spot. First one could be, you go in there and you feel what it feels like to be timid and you access that emotion. Or the second thing is you could stand in there and you could basically say like, okay, the symbol that is timidness is a scared little dog. Or it could be a mentor. Okay, a person who seems timid would be, I don't know, some movie star or something like this. Your unconscious mind will come up with ideas that'll help you get into the state. And like I said, the way this whole thing works is we have our first state that we create, which is maybe the emotion or the symbol that needs to be upgraded in your neurology. Okay, you know what that is. So unconsciously, you're going to have your own symbols come to mind. So you have this first spot. So you're here, you access it, you feel what it feels like, and then what we do is we create basically a hologram, if you can, or create that symbol, or create that mentor that you are. So you get this first place right here, and then boom, you step out of it. Whew. So in front of you, you're going to have basically a symbol, a hologram, a mentor, or something that represents this timidness, right? And then the next part, you're basically saying, well, what's the complementary opposite of that? So timidness, it would probably be boldness would be the next step. So what would be a symbol, if you can't access the emotion of what boldness feels like, what would be a symbol? And that would, to me, would be like a lion. A lion just bold and strong, so you can actually access that. And if it was going to be a mentor or something like this, it would be like, say, Arnold Schwarzenegger, okay? So when you step into these things, you can access any one of these. You can get into different states. You can access and do like a deep trance identification with, say, Arnold Schwarzenegger, or step into what it is like to have that symbol of the lion. Or if you can access it, then you just access what it feels like to feel bold. All right. So once you have that established, then what you do is it's basically going to tell you to step out. Boom, you step out, you create another hologram, a symbol, or a mentor in front of you, and that would represent this boldness. So you have two spots now. You have your timidness with either the symbol or the mentor here, and then stepping out of that, what we created in energy, in emotion, in visual representation would be the boldness. Either be the boldness, it could be the mentor, or it could be the symbol, right? And so you step out of that, and then you think to yourself, okay, well, what if I added something to boldness that would even be more powerful? And that could be intensity. So if I'm creating the emotion, if I can get into that intensity state, boom, I get into it, I feel it. If I can't do that, then I would create the lightning bolt. That would be my personal symbol, like intensity, just right? So now I have access to a lightning bolt. That might be easier for me to access that mentally in my mind. Or if it was intensity, it could be, okay, who would be super intense? Gordon Ramsay, okay, the chef, he's pretty intense. So it could be that, you could step into that, and it's no bullshit type of energy. So you could access that, you could do a deep trance identification into that, and then what you do is once you have that, boom, you step out of that, and now you're looking at this in front of you, and you're basically saying, okay, well, if I want to add something to intensity and to boldness, what else could I add that would even be more powerful? So if I want to add something else to it, I could want to add another state. It could be absolute fearlessness, all right? And that would be another one. So if I wanted to create a anchor there, I could either access what it feels like to feel fearless. It could be an image that comes to mind, which would be like an Indian warrior, like an Aztec warrior, something like that. This is just what unconsciously pops into mind. Or it could be a mentor of something who would be fearless, and I could tap into whether it's imagined or it's real. It doesn't really matter as long as your unconscious mind understands it. It would be like Braveheart, okay? Mel Gibson when he was playing Braveheart. I could step into that, and I could access all of these. So once we have access to all these, and we have these three different symbols, we have your Braveheart here, okay, or the Indian warrior, and then in front of you, you have the intensity. It could be Gordon Ramsay, it could be a lightning bolt, and then over here in the boldness, it could be the Arnold Schwarzenegger, it could be the lion, whatever it is. We now have three different symbols, states, mentors that you could utilize for this. So when we're out here, we gather that fearlessness, we access it, we gather that energy, and then what we do is we step into it, we combine these two states of mind through the neurology. Remember, those thoughts that fire together, wire together. And so you have these two thoughts coming together. Now you have a much more powerful, you have this, basically this fearless intensity, right? And then when you access that and you allow that to get integrated, you take that, you step into the boldness, and now you have even a more powerful state. Remember, those thoughts that fire together, wire together in your neurology. Use it or lose it. And then when you're accessing and you have all these powerful states, you step back into the timidness, and basically you're taking all these neurology here, and this one that was here, this is the timid, this is the fearless, intense boldness. And then what we do is we step back into it, boom, and we combine them. The powerful thoughts will override the timidness, thus, basically taking apart or dismantling or dissolving that timidness, so your neurology doesn't really have access to that anymore. So these are all different ways that you can do this. And one thing I want to say is the more you do this, the better, okay? Sometimes it's not just a one-shot deal. Sometimes you have to do it a number of different times and you chip away at it, and then let's just say you did it 3 times in a row, and then you try to access timidness, you don't have it. And the way the changes work is, you don't really realize it maybe right away. Some people do. Some people realize that, hey, they're just walking along, and let's just say you want to go pick something up, or you want to go say hi to someone. You find yourself actually just doing that, and you're like, whoa, you have that moment. It's like a thought bubble that comes up and says, I would have never done that before. That's how you know that change is taking place, and your neurology is starting to let you filter through an expanded vision or expanded belief system or identity. All right, so when you do this, the more you do it, the better it gets if you stick with it. That's the important thing, and pretty soon you'll just realize, like, hey, it's done. And if you write down all the things that you want to upgrade and you do it one at a time, then pretty soon you're going to just look at your list and you're going to be like, these aren't even an issue anymore. Then you can start to get really, really powerful. You can say, okay, well, this is where I was, like in my own mentality, and I could be standing here if I do them again. This is like, let's just imagine we erase that and we have a whole fresh one. So let's just say this is your current state of evolution, and you can access that. You can access that, what that would be like. It would be like, let's just say a tornado or something. And the current evolution that I'm at is me here right now in a symbol. Now, if I stepped out of that, I can even go something like this. Well, who are mentors that I really like? It could be Gandhi. And if I stepped out over here, it could be Jesus. And if I stepped out over here, it could be Martin Luther King, something like this. You can step in and get a deep trans-identification, taking their knowledge, their wisdom, and combining these symbols, because that's what they are in your mind. They're symbols, they're representations of energy, of thoughts, of ideas, of values, and then you step back in with all their knowledge and you basically upgrade that and evolve that. So with that, like I said, this is for men and women now. I wanted to add this to you just to give you some ideas on how best to utilize this. And if you saw in the first video, it's always good to basically design it out first. Like, get a piece of paper. That way you're not thinking about the process while you're actually doing it. So you're sitting here and you write down on a piece of paper, timid. And then you draw a little line in a box, maybe a little box that's a little bit bigger. And you say, okay, well, what is the complementary opposite of timidness? And that's when you would say, okay, well, it's boldness. So you got that down. So now you have a visual representation, thus basically getting it out of your head onto paper. And then you look at it and you say, okay, cool, let's draw a little line with a bigger box. Well, what can I add to the boldness? And that would be the intensity. And then you draw another box and you say, okay, that would be the fearlessness. So now when you look down, you basically have that diagram, that blueprint of how you're actually going to do this. So you look down and you don't have to think about it. And another thing I want to say is, it takes a number of different times to actually get this. The first time you do it, or the second time, your mind may be going, okay, what's going on? What do I do next? But what happens is maybe by the third or fourth time, all of a sudden you understand the process. So that allows you to activate it more. You can actually get into it. And the more you actually get into it, the more powerful it's going to be. And like I said, you saw the one demonstration where I'm getting loud. I'm like, roar. It doesn't always have to be that way. Intensity could be very quiet, just very subtle. It could be through breath. Remember, breath is important. You only want to activate your neurology and get it going. So when you step back into that original spot, it dissolves it, it eradicates it, it upgrades it. It basically brings yourself to the next level. So that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to give this out there. These are some ideas that came back from people that found that they were having a little trouble accessing the states. And with that, write down, design your life perfectly the way you want to, and you'll notice some powerful changes coming your way. So with that, I hope you enjoy. Hypnotica out.